this episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we have Radeon RX 6700 XTs, very interesting Intel SSDs, and tons of tech news. Next. Welcome back to yet another fine episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks webcast. I'm Dave Altavilla, chuckling. What day is it? Wednesday? Man, have we been running flat out, and it's only Wednesday. Marco's here. Chris is here. How you doing, fellas?
Doing pretty good. Bit of a shaving mishap this week, so we have to regrow the facial hair, but all good otherwise.
Yeah, you were like in the nook of the north there for a while with the full growth. Now you're back down to stubble, man.
This is 4 days growth. It's coming back. But yeah, I was going to something important Saturday, trying to trim it up, and I nicked the mustache, and there was no saving it. I could have went for the 70s porn stash look, but I decided against it.
70s porn stash is always a timeless classic. Chris has got the full mountain man look. He's rocking it.
Yeah, always the fear that there will be a shaving mishap, but so far, at least any mishaps I've had have been able to just kind of ignore until it grows in, and we're fine. Haven't had to start over yet.
Hey, and it comes in red there, Chris. You get some red in your lineage? Is that Viking or something like that?
A lot of red, and there's a little red mixed into the top of the head too. But yeah, especially in the beard.
You're not quite the carrot top.
I've got Norwegian blood. I've got pretty much any European blood you could ask for. It's just kind of, it's there.
Marco and I are like 100% Irish, both of us.
Yeah, there's absolutely. You could tell by my pasty white skin.
Yeah,
and the vowels, the copious vowels that we have in our name. Yeah, like Mick Chiapetta. Yeah,
exactly.
But hey, good stuff. Good to see you guys. We have been busy, as they say, and that's a good thing. Lots of tech to talk about, and lots of tech on deck. I'm waiting for some stuff from the good folks at Asus, and maybe a little present from OnePlus as well. OnePlus is having a launch that's been announced. OnePlus 9 expected to hit the Hot Hardware lab here shortly. Snapdragon 888 powered. Marco, what do you got showing up on your doorstep?
A bunch of stuff that I can't talk about, and a bunch of stuff that I'm super late on.
You could talk about us, but then you'd have to kill us and maybe a few viewers too, and that wouldn't be good.
Exactly.
Definitely not good for viewership. That's that much we know. James says we have baby beards. Thanks, James.
Yeah, James's beard is epic. It's gonna reach his nipples soon.
He's got the full ZZ top thing going, man.
That's right.
Yeah. It takes a lot to craft a beard like that. Chris, what do you got cooking in your neck of the woods for gear?
I've got the Alienware desktop sitting over there that I still haven't gotten to because my other day job has been insane. So trying to keep the wheels turning with that, but we'll get there as quick as we can.
We'll get you fired yet. Don't you worry about it. And then you can just make it easy, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Hey, so are you imbibing any suds today before we dive into the line?
I am. I've got this Abby double. Not sure if I can get this to focus. I've got the capture card hooked up to another computer today, so I'm just on the USB connection. But
flying nice fish IPA or Flying Fish Ale.
Yeah, Flying Fish Brewing Company, and I don't remember where that's out of. It is,
Flying Fish being Sea Robins, I would imagine.
Looks like it might just be out of New Jersey, Somerdale, New Jersey.
I'm from Jersey. You from Jersey? I have Hopload Citra. Is it focusing? Come on, focus. Anyways, yeah, there you go. So this is from Startline Brewing Company in Hopkinton. Startline meaning the start of the Boston Marathon. From Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Hopload Citra. This is a hazy, juicy New England style IPA from Startline Brewing Company. Good folks. One of these days we'll get beer sponsors. That'd be great. Marco won't care much. He's got water sponsors though. Maybe like some fancy little foo-foo water, like electrolyte, whatever that you could get sponsored.
cheap
what I was thinking.
plastic IKEA cup with zero water that we filtered at home.
Oh, but I mean, like if
But
we
is
had
it
a
free range?
It's free range water, yes.
range water,
Organic, free range, no additives.
it roamed outside of the pipes right into your glass. Yeah, no, I mean, if we had a fancy water sponsorship, like I don't know, Voss or one of these other guys sponsored.
Voss. What are you talking, dude? You're Italian and you say Pellegrino.
Pellegrino, San Pellegrino. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
I
there
don't
you
know
go.
my fancy waters.
Yeah. San Pellegrino, Perrier, that's French. Oh gosh, we can't do that, right? It has to be Italian water.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey, let's dive in and we'll stop talking about the beverages and we'll start talking about some tech. The viewers are amassing, and so we must give them what they want. Let's talk about some quick stuff in the news, some quick hitting stuff, and then we will get to the AMD Radeon RX 6700 XT as well as an Intel SSD 670p. Two really interesting products, one of which we got to kick the tires. Haven't gotten a chance to kick the tires yet in the Radeon, but that's coming soon. Quick teases. Biden's $37 billion chip stimulus executive order could help GPU and console shortages. At least that's how we termed the Biden effort. I'm going to drop this into the chat now. Basically, Joe has decided to look into this issue of semiconductor supply chain shortages, find out where the squeaks are, where the bugs are, where the sticky points are, where the rub is, so to speak, and then hopefully potentially finance it with a $37 billion shot in the arm to bolster semiconductor production capacity where needed, especially for critical industries like automotive. I'm not sure necessarily consoles would rank that high, but certainly the computing industry would for critical infrastructure kind of compute products, maybe GPUs as well. Guys, any thoughts on this? Good stuff to have the government take an issue here.
I mean, any bottlenecks you can alleviate will help the other sectors, even if indirectly. So not bad there. 37 billion sounds like a lot. I don't know how much it actually is in the tech space as a whole, where billions and billions are spent daily. So every bit helps. Yes, we'll see how it goes.
We'll take it if we can. Marco, will you take it? You want 37 billion?
I'll take the 37 billion, but the initial 100-day review and the fact that the government's involved means that 100 days will stretch out to like 400 days, and there's tons of pork in there, and of the 37 billion, like $60 will make it into the supply chain. So we'll see how it goes.
There is that too. Yep.
Yeah.
He's not the least bit cynical about it, though.
No.
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
He's going to send a couple 6-packs to Intel, and just keep it light and keep it loose, and that'll be the stimulus.
Yeah, boy, yeah. Well, I hope it's a little bit more than that, but I also share with you the concern for government red tape that is inevitable. But we shall see how that fares. Intel had something interesting that hit the wire. I'll drop this into the chat as well. And it seems like we're getting a little bit more of, I guess, a shadow of information on DG2, which is Intel's discrete graphics product 2. We have rumored in there, Intel DG2 desktop gaming GPU, rumored specs to include up to 512 EUs, that's execution units, along with 16 gigs of VRAM. And there's a pretty reliable Twitter leaker that had some information. You can see some various configurations. Chris, I don't know if you want to share that up on the screen, but 512 all the way down to
if you got it up, go ahead and share it.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. 512 execution units all the way down to 96 execution units. Let me get this into the share application window. Okay. And zoom. So there's the tweet. And you can see various configurations there. Interesting stuff. Seems to be what would make sense in terms of multiples. Seems to be what would make sense in terms of memory bus with 256-bit being the widest configuration. 16 gigs of VRAM, kind of standard issue stuff for what's in the market today on the RTX, high end of RTX 30 series and Radeon RX 6000 series competitively. Any thoughts on this, Marco, before we move on from the rumor mongering?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. We know that DG2 is going to have a high-end variant, and Intel is targeting that enthusiast gamer segment. So, it makes sense that they're going to go with a big beefy card with plenty of memory. It was the rest of that lineup is kind of questionable. Like, I'd be surprised to see 4 gig cards even in the mainstream units. That doesn't really make a lot of sense these days. That would get really, really hammered if they come out, let's say, late this year, next year. I don't think anybody would be really psyched to buy a 4 gig card. But yeah, I'm not surprised we're seeing more and more leaks because this stuff is coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I know it's rumored. Well, I'm not sure if have they put a stake in the sand when it's coming. I know we heard second half, but I don't know if they got.
I don't think there's been anything really solidly committal, unless just to say that it's this year. It's this year.
Yeah. Agreed. And I'll be looking forward to that DG2 or the discrete graphics products, XE HPG, if I have my acronyms right. High performance gaming graphics cards from Intel coming later this year, and some rumors flying around, people getting wind.
All I ask for is mid-range competitive. Anything better, and I'll be ecstatic.
And availability would be cool.
Oh yeah, there is that. And speaking of, we've got James in the chat, asking what the hash rate will be. We don't.
You're making some hackles stand up with that question, I'm sure. Hopefully the miners don't gobble them all up like they're doing these days. But
so pull that up, asking if a 4 gigabyte strategy is for 1080p gamers to make it unappealing for mining. But I don't know, does mining really use much VRAM to begin with? I don't think that's a huge consideration, is it?
I don't know.
I don't have a good answer. I think it uses, it's strategic use of bandwidth. I think 4 gig might be limiting, but 4 gig is going to be limiting for 1080p gamers too. Especially when a competing card is going to have 6 or 8. Whether it actually affects performance or not, nobody wants that half as much.
Exactly. Hey, I'll post another one in the chat. And then now that we're on the Intel graphics thing, yes, you can run NVIDIA CUDA on Intel GPUs, and libraries for it have hit GitHub. That was a headline we put up. That's an interesting article that actually the illustrious Ben Funk ran down for us. Does a great job for us. Reviewer, Uber geek extraordinaire on staff, and a developer by day as well. Actually fired this up to try and get it to run. Didn't have luck getting it running. Thanks, Chris. Oh, actually, no. I'm still sharing my screen, and you switch back to me. Hey, StreamYard's pretty cool. We'll be talking about StreamYard real quick. I know. So yeah, there's the results from ZLUDA, Geekbench Performance versus OpenCL. So the red bars you can see there, their libraries running CUDA on Intel hardware. And how it performs versus OpenCL, generic OpenCL acceleration. And so interesting stuff for sure. Ben wasn't able to get it quite to run. He made an attempt, ended up giving up in the essence of trying to be efficient with his time and get the story out. But interesting stuff that you can do it, and actually nice to see the gains. I would think even for like notebook architectures, this could be cool. Marco, any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, like it's OpenCL has progressively gotten much better, and if you look at that data, there's only specific workloads where the ZLUDA libraries are faster. I think this is more about it's trying to get laying the groundwork for competing GPUs to break into areas where CUDA's got a stranglehold.
Right. Performance is not the story right now.
Right. Yeah. I think OpenCL performance has advanced pretty well the last few years. I think even, if you run some of the GPU workloads in a benchmark like Sandra on GPUs, sometimes they're faster even on NVIDIA parts. The OpenCL is faster than the CUDA code path. But yeah, it's cool stuff. Opening up the possibility of running CUDA on other hardware.
There you go. Right. Cool. And gorgeous new Halo Infinite screenshots show the game's long delay may be worth it. I'll drop the link in the chat on this one. So yeah, Halo Infinite, people complaining that, unfortunately this thing is just taking too long. Still no date. But yeah, actually, Chris, if you want to give me back the share, there you go. Some of the screenshots are actually pretty
much
slick.
better looking.
Yeah. We'll scroll down here. Nice to see the graphics engine revamp on forthcoming Halo Infinite. Chris, were you into this game at all? Much? Were you a Halo guy? I played some.
I mean, yeah, Halo 1, Halo 2, I played a ton of, and I'm playing a ton of Destiny now, which is, not really a spiritual successor to Halo, but out of Bungie as well, where Halo started. So, definitely very invested in that kind of sci-fi gun shooty world. So this looks like a game I'll definitely want to check out and play. Now, when I first saw the trailer that they originally put out, it was rough. Like, I get that the developers had their explanation that they had a art style they were going for, but it obviously didn't translate well. I don't like squashing someone's artistic vision, but I think what we're seeing here is definitely a much a better look at the game. So excited to see it. It's a Halo game, so it should play very well, hopefully. So fun is what really matters in the end.
That's it. It's got to be fun. The eye candy's nice and all that, but it's got to be fun. Interesting looking stuff. Looks like it could be a candidate for ray tracing with some nice reflections that could be involved here, and different rays of light bouncing. Mark, did you play any Halo?
I did not, and I am solely focused on Back 4 Blood, which is coming in June, and that will definitely be my next game that I dive into head first. Is
that sequel to Left 4 Dead?
It's the spiritual successor. It's lots of the same people that worked on it, but they're no longer at Valve doing their own thing. And the first gameplay videos look insane.
I have not seen that yet. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the tip.
So stream one.
Back 4 Blood. Nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, right. Yeah, we could fire that up on the Twitch. And actually, let me back up real quick, talk about a couple of things video-wise that we should mention real quick before we move on. You are watching us courtesy of the folks at StreamYard. They are not technically sponsoring this cast. They've offered us tools to utilize, and you're seeing the production value and the production quality courtesy of StreamYard. The 3-box hair, the fancy transitions, sliding in comments, all that is done by StreamYard. Really nice, easy tool. It allows us also to multicast. So you can see us on Facebook, you can see us on Twitch, you can see us on YouTube, of course, as well. Yeah, cool stuff, cool tools from the folks at StreamYard. Thank you very much for helping us out. And the other thing is, you should probably check out our new Twitch streamer. Her name is Valerie Rojas at HotHardware Twitch. She is game streaming now, Call of Duty, little bit of Fortnite today as well. But she streams Wednesdays from 2 to 4 and Sundays from 4 to 6. Val, as she goes by. It's Val at it's Val is her Twitter handle. But she's great, and she's having fun on our Twitch channel for us when we're working hard and doing that. So, all right. Interesting stuff from AMD. We'll get to the main event shortly, but I'll drop this into the chat now. A little bit of EPYC, Zen 4 EPYC socket speculation. I don't know. It's a little bit of everything. AMD EPYC 7004 Genoa Zen 4 CPU allegedly sports 12-channel DDR5 massive LGA 6096 socket. Man, Marco's chuckling, and this is a mock render versus Rome Milan, and the Genoa mock-up is on the right. Here you can see the number of chiplets. The core spread was 96 cores 192 threads, 12 channel DDR5, 5200 support, PCI Express 5, configurable 350 watt to 400 watt TDP. All of this comes from a source called EPYC, which I believe was a Twitter. Let me see if I can find the source on it. But it was a tweet that was put out, and then these follow-up renderings, acting on what they say is pretty reliable information. So, Marco, I don't know if your thoughts are here. We have not been briefed. We don't know anything official about this, and if we did, we couldn't tell you. But go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say I hope it's real, because to have. I'm not confident in 12 memory channels, but to have that much bandwidth and all of those cores with a next gen architecture that we already know is on track, that's going to have IPC improvements and potentially better multi-core scaling and, revamped cache architecture, the amount of horsepower per socket, if that's real, insane.
Yeah. The tweet, I guess, and again, I'm still trying to look for the actual source tweet. Let me see. No, don't have it. Says it will, El Capitan will be powered by, this is the supercomputer, the new supercomputer El Capitan, will be powered by next generation AMD EPYC processors, codenamed Genoa, featuring Zen 4 processor cores, next generation AMD Radeon Instinct GPUs, and new compute optimized architecture for workloads, including HPC, AI, and AMD Radeon Open Compute. Rock 'em. Interesting stuff. This is a collaboration between AMD, Hewlett Packard, and the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, LLNL. Supposedly, this is what's happening. This is what's up. I think it's feasible, possible, but man. I mean, and you can see actually in the mock-up that the Infinity Fabric die in the center is also slightly smaller.
Well, that's a mock-up though, and it's
a mock-up.
The IO die. It's just a mock. We wouldn't know what's in there.
You'd have to shrink. Well, I'm suggesting a shrink is the point, but I don't know. Anyways, it's always good to rumor and speculate, but we'll see how real that is as the weeks and months progress. Anything else to add on that before we move on? We don't deal too much in rumor and speculation, except to drool when maybe it could be real. I
mean, I think like Marco said, the only real questionable part of that, as much as all the core counts and stuff sounds insane, but that's where it's trending. The 12 channel memory, I mean, dual channel is pretty rock solid now, but triple quad channel, as we've seen them, have kind of fallen out of favor. Reliability issues here and there, or just getting them to run sometimes can be a little more challenging. I don't think they're as common anymore as they were. So going all the way up to 12 channel, I know it's DDR5, but it seems like a big stretch.
Well, it might be. What's max? I'm thinking these are server class products now, Chris, obviously, as well. What's max? Is it 8 channel max currently?
8 channel on the high end EPYCs.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyways,
maybe
looks cool. Sounds nice. We'll see. All right. Let's finish up with this one, and then we'll dig into the good stuff, because we got to get to the good stuff. Slightly creepy, deep nostalgia tool reanimates photos of the dead with deepfake tech.
No thanks.
No thanks. Well, I don't know. Historical figures, like Abraham Lincoln talking to you. Maybe it's I don't know. Take your pick of some famous person, historical figure that's passed away, coming back, reanimated. I think folks were sort of a little bit creeped out at the notion of bringing back a loved one, a family member, and having their picture animate. But basically, I dropped the link in the chat here as well. It's fascinating technology. Deep fakes in general, or deep AI enhanced renderings in general are fascinating to watch what the machine can do. But here's a little demo here. This is kind of cool. So the human subject on the left and the portrait on the right, as you can see, it's tracking her facial movements and expressions I mean, talk about crazy. And then here's Abe Lincoln, 7 years ago or something like that, right? Talking to you. And he's got a laptop, because Abe's with the times now. So it's fascinating stuff. This is another one, a little bit more. Let me see if I can spread this out a little bit. There we go. This is kind of just an old black and white photo, and this woman is just, gazing around, thinking about her surroundings like she would in normal life, and very smiley. She's a happy lady. But yeah, animating an old photo like that with AI algorithms and facial expressions that have been learned from real humans. What do you guys think about this? Kind of cool.
It's really cool. We know, the first thing that's going to happen is like Abraham Lincoln porn. But what's funny is
you're implying that hasn't already happened.
Yeah,
Rule
that's
34.
true.
Come on.
For me, like looking at the samples, it does a phenomenal job with the facial expressions and eyes, but the mouth is always the dead giveaway.
Yeah. Or the ear tucking in and out behind the hairline.
Yeah, like I mean that stuff you could fix if they're just animating the face, like if you have a smaller animated circle, but yeah, like as soon as they try to talk and there's a simulated teeth and mouth, it's not there. But in a few years, man, like it's going to be so difficult to tell what's real and what's fake.
Yeah,
it's
are we
scary.
already
It's
there?
Scary.
And it's just a case of you only notice the ones that are bad.
Yeah, I'm
What
sure.
if I'm not here?
That's possible. I mean, we know you're not here, but the quality. I'm sure there's nefarious characters out there. If there's enough resources behind something and they don't want you to know it's fake, you're not going to find out it's fake today. But it's going to get to the point where some dude with a MacBook in Starbucks is going to be able to do this stuff, and it's crazy.
It is crazy, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think really what it's about now is improving, letting the AI learn, and the more it digests, the more it takes from nature, the world's surroundings, and ingests them, with training algorithms. I mean, hey. It's only going to get better. And yeah, it's exciting and powerful, and at the same time, a little bit scary because, yeah, you can do some crazy stuff with this. And in the wrong hands, people can, you can have issues with real people in real life.
Let's rephrase that. In Marco's hands.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would kill a lot of time.
Yeah. You would probably torture me handily, I would imagine. All right. Well, hey, good stuff.
You know what? I'm going to just throw something that was the funniest thing I saw this week. I shared it out on my personal Facebook. Did you guys see this fake trailer for Pee-wee Park? Someone basically took the Jurassic Park trailer and replaced all the dinosaurs with Pee-wee Herman.
Holy crap!
It's
on your
so
feed,
funny. Yeah. It's so funny. Go see that. Go search it out. Pee-wee Park. Thank me later.
I don't go on Facebook much, but I'll make an exception just for you.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Who's the scientist that Newman plays? Newman from Seinfeld.
He was the IT guy.
He was the IT guy in Jurassic Park, and I just love when he's in the forest and Pee-wee peeks out from behind a tree and goes,
yeah. Exactly. You laugh so bad.
Hilarious. Oh, it's good stuff. Yeah, you really got to check that out. That is good. If we had that link, I'm trying to log into Facebook right now to see if I can pull that link because
I'll go throw it in the chat while you guys are talking.
Yeah, it is good stuff. Really good stuff. Hilarious. Yeah, that's what you should use this for. The video is live now. I'm looking at Facebook. Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Should be
good.
Live. We got people reacting.
Excellent. All right. Good. And some thumbs and some love. Excellent. Good to have the love on Facebook. Good to see you all on the books of Face. All right. Let's should we finish up on AMD? I think we should finish up. Leave them best for last kind of thing.
Yeah,
man. Whatever you want.
Okay.
I just shared out that YouTube link in the chat to everybody. So
you
it's
did.
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, let's talk about something that you were able to really dig in and learn about, and that's Intel's new SSD. Very interesting SSD, the Intel SSD 670p review. Snappy, budget-friendly NVMe storage is the headline, and we coined it this because it's not a big, blazing fast PCI Express 4 drive that, cranks over 5,000 gigs a second, 7,000 gigs a second, whatever. But it is tuned for everyday workloads with very, shallow queue depths and small random file transfers. So 4K transfers and the like. Tuned for the everyday workload of folks on a laptop, folks on a desktop, for responsiveness. Sequentials are not going to be a strength of this drive, but it's a very interesting drive in its own right. And it just so happens to be also reasonably priced, very reasonably priced. Marco, you reviewed it. What'd you think? Intel's SSD 670p.
I like it, and I'm going to tell you why. For the workloads that matter for most people, right? If you're not constantly transferring big files, those random 4K reads and writes and access times are the most important things to look for in an SSD in terms of like perceptible responsiveness. If you want your machine to feel snappy, you want those fast 4K transfers. And what Intel did with this drive, like normally when you move to more advanced QLC NAND, like this is 144 layer NAND, oftentimes drives endurance goes down, performance may or may not go down, depending on the drive and the controller and the firmware. But what Intel did with this drive is interesting. So it's very similar to the 665 and the 660. It's got an SMI controller. It's not an Intel built controller. It's the SMI 2262, if I'm remembering correctly. There's a little piece of DRAM on there, plus the NAND flash. Then Intel does their magic with the firmware. And what you see if you run through all the numbers is sequentials are good. Like there's 3.5 gigs per second on reads and up to 2.7 on writes. But it's those strong 4K transfers and strong performance in like real world workloads like the trace-based benchmarks and PC Mark. So like overall, I tried to put a good mix of drives in for comparison data. I have 2 PCIe 4 drives, 2 high-end PCIe 3 drives, and a couple of mid-range and lower-end PCIe 3 drives. And for the most part, if you're just looking at the synthetic benchmarks, this 670p lands right about in the middle. You're not going to be enthused looking at all of the numbers. But if you strictly focus on the really important QDepth 1 4K transfers, it's among the best drives in the pack. And it ends up in the trace-based test being behind only the PCIe 4 Samsung SSD 980 Pro, which is one of the best SSDs you can buy right now. The cool thing is, though, you get that kind of real world responsive good performance for, I think it was 13 to 16 cents a gigabyte, which is right smack dab in the middle. You could spend way more on it on an NVMe SSD. And even though it's using the 144 layer QLC, endurance is improved 85% over the 660p. So like all around, this is a good drive. You won't get excited looking at the specs, but this is a really good drive for people to consider for a mainstream build.
Yeah. Did they say what changes they made to do the wear endurance improvement with the QLC on it? Is it algorithmic wear leveling, or is it just a better manufacturing process?
I think all of the above. They didn't specifically say, but you have a lot more capacity to use for wear leveling and for over provisioning. You have tweaks to the firmware, and yes, just getting a more mature manufacturing process building the NAND. I think it's just all of the above.
Yeah. I've got the 4K single Q depth numbers up here, and you can see it's hanging with a 970 Pro, type of performance. And interesting that the 980 Pro doesn't handle as well, although this is a pretty tight grouping in this chart. But this is Crystal Disk Mark for random 4K transfers, single Q depth. Would you say, Marco, this is probably as mainstream a workload as you can probably get?
No, not Crystal Disk Mark. I think the PC Mark test is a better indicator. But and even there, you see the PC Mark test is interesting because all of that bandwidth on PCIe 4 means next to nothing, because actual transfer speeds with this test are like hundreds of megabytes a second. But if you look, it has second best latency, second best transfer bandwidth, second best overall score, behind a really nice drive, And we have a couple of questions that are actually related. So we have a Hakam Hefni, I think I pronounced that right, asking if this drive will take advantage of Optane memory. You can use Optane memory with any other drive. So you can do that. And then we have Oscar Castillo. I think I can share that. I'm going to learn it. Oh, Chris got it for me. Asking, I thought Intel was getting out of storage. They're not getting out of storage. They're getting out of Optane storage. Right. So, standalone Optane storage. There will still be hybrid drives that incorporate NAND and Optane together, but the standalone purely Optane or 3D Crosspoint media drives, they've discontinued. And maybe that changes in the future. I'm not sure. We'll see. But no, Intel is still very much in storage and in NAND.
Yeah, and actually, Chris, if we can go back to the screen share real quick. Marco, you make a good point that the Crystal Disk Mark stuff is a synthetic test. PC Mark actually uses real world applications, different sorts of loading. It's a trace based test. Trace meaning workloads tracked. In
timing, how long the different little aspects of the program take to finish.
Exactly. Tracing the process. So here you can see it's right up at the top of the chart in the overall drive score. It's kissing an SSD 980 Pro, which is Samsung's bleeding edge PCI Express 4 SSD, and average bandwidth is also rated very close to the 980 Pro. So depending on what you're doing for mainstream stuff, sure, maybe if you're a videographer and you need to crunch seriously large sequential workloads, this drive isn't going to have the sequential throughput of a PCI Express 4 drive. It's just not. It's a 3 gigs a second read, and just under that, 3.5, and then just sub 3 gigs, right?
2.7, 2.7, up to 2.7 on writes. So James making an interesting comment. He says, "Did Intel change pricing after the launch?" I think so. Didn't get official word, right? So this is funny. After the articles went up, I'm in a group of a bunch of reviewers that review SSDs, and there was a tons of questions on pricing, and people asking, "Where the heck did you get that pricing?" The pricing that we published and most other publications put up came direct from Intel. They sent us a table with pricing. I literally copied and pasted from the Intel email into our conclusion. If you go to buy a drive right now on Newegg, they are way cheaper than MSRP, like way down. Like instead of $329 for the 2 terabyte drive, it's only $249. So it just makes it that much more attractive. No official word from Intel, but street prices are what matter. So it's phenomenal at $249. I would totally buy a 2 terabyte one of these, for a mainstream build, no question.
And now one more thing, money you can't spend right now.
Yeah, there you go. Use your GPU money to upgrade your storage. One other point that I want to make. If one of you guys could scroll up to the HD TAC on page 2, you'll see the actual screenshot from the write test in there. And that right there. Yep. So this is one area where I think Intel could drastically improve overall performance in terms of how things look on synthetic benchmarks. So HD-Tune writes data across the entire capacity of the drive. And what you see with most QLC drives that have an SLC cache is it'll maintain peak performance, peak performance, peak performance. The cache will be exhausted. Performance drops off completely. Intel's got this really crazy sawtooth pattern where the cache is exhausted, it's flushed, it's filled. The cache is exhausted, it's flushed, it's filled. And for most workloads, that won't matter. Like for tiny file transfers, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. But if they wanted to have, you guys might want to just leave that window first.
Sorry.
If they wanted to have stronger sequentials, right, for in some tests, having something like the way Samsung handles it, where literally you just get peak performance till all of the cache is exhausted, would help. But
Is Samsung still using SLC
there.
for their cache?
Yeah, so see, Samsung's done some cool stuff though. Like on the smaller capacity drives, you see the drop off when the cache is exhausted.
Right.
On the larger drives, the cache is flushed and filled at so fast it can maintain peak performance because there's always cache available. Right. So on like a 1 terabyte, the 2 terabyte 980 Pro, the SLC cache is really never exhausted. You can write across the whole drive, and because it's flushed and getting refilled so quickly, it seems like it's maintaining peak performance. So, yeah, like not all drives are created equal, but if Intel wanted to have those, nicer sequentials on a drive like this, they could tweak that algo, I think.
Good stuff. The 670p from Intel. Is it available yet? I was checking Amazon. Doesn't look like it's quite there yet.
I didn't see them on Amazon, but they're on Newegg.
They're on Newegg. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff. And that's the thing. I mean, I think everybody goes for, the first thing you look at with an SSD when a new product is announced, you look at that peak bandwidth number. Okay, what's it push for peak sequential read write? And the more gigs the better. Well, maybe not, in terms of day-to-day feel and responsiveness, that low queue depth response, that small random file transfer response, that's important. So, I agree with you, Marco. As a good mainstream, especially a 2 terabyte drive at these price points, a good mainstream drive for your OS volume, pretty good option.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely,
for sure. Cool. All right. Well, let's talk about the big reveal today. The folks at AMD. AMD reveals the Radeon RX 6700 XT, a 1440p gaming powerhouse. I'll drop a link in the chat. And James Pryor, I would agree with you. James says, can I do this? Okay. Yeah. Boom. There you go. Oops. Sorry. Anyways. James says 4K read and write is where I look. He's a smart guy. All right. So yeah, AMD's Radeon 6700 XT, 1440p gaming powerhouse. Interesting product for sure. Marco, you were briefed. I was briefed a little bit. We've been digesting it. Lots of other announcements with this, or a few other announcements with this in terms of enabling smart access memory or the rebar on 3000 series chipsets and processors. But there's the specs on the 6700 XT. What do you want to hit first? You want to hit the other announcements and then come back to this, or the
other announcements will be super quick, super fast. Yeah. The resizable bar, or the smart access memory feature, as Intel AMD has branded it, coming to Ryzen 3000 platforms and motherboards. That's good because now we have NVIDIA supporting resizable bar. Lots of Intel motherboards have been updated with the resizable bar support. So now it's pervasive across the industry. Should maybe potentially help performance moving forward. In most of the games we've tested, it's only a few where it shows a marked increase in performance, but hey, great new feature. It's a good forward looking feature that allows the CPU to peer into all the memory, so good stuff there. And AMD's Radeon anti-lag and Radeon boost features, which have been available for quite some time, are now coming to DirectX titles. So virtually all APIs now supported. Well, all DirectX APIs, for the vast majority of DirectX games can now take advantage of boost or anti-lag. So good stuff there as well.
Cool. All right. What about the card itself?
Card itself,
XT is looking interesting for sure. It hits the sweet spot in the market. Sort of a upper mid-range or mid-range offering, it seems.
Yep. So MSRP or SEP, $479, right? If you can buy them at that price,
if you can find them.
Yeah, if you can find them, and performance is in line with what AMD has published, going to be a killer card. So yeah, basically, it's somewhat of a 6800 cut in half, right? So instead of 80 CUs, there's 40 CUs, 40 ray tracing accelerators as well. You have up to 24 megahertz game clock. 96 megs of Infinity Cache instead of the 128 on Big Navi, 12 gigs of GDDR6 attached to the GPU, and a board power of 230 watts. So the design language looks very much like the 6800 series, but there's a dual axial fan on here with a newly optimized fin structure and heat pipe setup with a phase change thermal interface material over the GPU, dual axial fans instead of the triple axial fans, and yeah, so and the display outputs just like the other cards with the single HDMI and triple display ports as well. In terms of the numbers, though, they're saying competes well, usually beats an RTX 3060 Ti and trades blows with an RTX 3070 versus previous gen cards. So that graph that's up there right now is, people that would want to upgrade from previous gen, so 1070 Ti or 2080 Super, big jumps in performance, especially versus, a GTX 10 series.
Yeah. And
for esports games, the card's powerful enough to shoot those, hundreds of frames per second to fully maximize a high refresh rate monitor and keep your latency low. So competitive gamers that want to game at 1440p, also a potential solution. So seems like a really nice, well-rounded card. And to hopefully make them available for gamers, ATI's, oh my God, I said ATI. AMD is,
dating yourself.
A multi-pronged approach. On March 18th, cards will be available for sale at MSRP direct from AMD.com while supplies last. And board partners can launch all of their custom cards same day across all of their favorite online retailers. So we're sure availability is going to be tight. There's just, things are tight across the industry. But hopefully you can grab them on March 18th. Hopefully some people get to enjoy some new GPUs soon.
Yeah. I like that approach. I hope it's enough. It's great, that they're offering both, the reference design and third-party cards at the same time. Certainly AMD.com trying to make product available for gamers. Really like the looks of the reference design. I'm going to put that back up, add it back to the stream here. The dual axial design is kind of that's really nice. I like how they trim down the shroud a little bit. What do you think about that? We have to wait till we get our hands on it, but I really like that dual axial design. That looks hot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, right? Because theoretically, right, if you take if it's roughly half of a 6800 XT, but with only 33% fewer fans, should be really good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have to say the big R's on it do make me want to create a custom Team Rocket themed build a la Pokemon, because I think that'd be perfect as the centerpiece, and I get one of those vertical GPU mounts. Look real nice.
Oh yeah. You get the RRR, baby. Yeah, man. No, it's good stuff. And the performance looks good. Let's go down to this slide right here. I think it's got a little bit more data on it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Black Ops, Cyberpunk, Dirt 5, Gears 5, Hitman, all of them on there. Watchdog Legions, top game titles, the most recent game titles. They didn't talk much about ray tracing performance, except to say that there's 40 RT accelerators on board with the GPU cores. I wonder what ray tracing will look like with this. But regardless, strong performance. Looks like it's trading blows handily beating a 3060 Ti, trading blows with a 3070, depending on the game title.
Mm-hmm. Now, the real interesting data point in that graph is the Assassin's Creed, that first one. Assassin's Creed is one of the games that'll do like up to 15 to 17% improvement with resizable bar.
Yeah.
So on a platform without resizable bar, that graph might not look just like that. But yeah, I think performance is going to be strong. And in terms of ray tracing, like we already know with 80 ray tracing accelerators, the Radeon 6800 XT is like a 2080 Ti, so it doesn't hang with 30 series RTX, but it hung with the 2080 Ti, so this is going to be obviously behind that. So probably between the 2060 and 2070, I'm going to guess. In that range for ray tracing performance.
Yeah. This price band, or I should really say this segment of the market, is something that AMD has excelled in the past. So if you remember the 5700 series, the price points it hit, 5700 XT, AMD has done generally pretty well in more value positions, higher volume unit type offerings. Could this be another 5700 XT moment where gamers are like, hey, this strikes a really nice balance of cost and performance for the money. The only caveat is we can only talk about this in light of an MSRP because of the crazy market dynamics. But what are your thoughts there?
I think it's going to be killer, but we also noticed they didn't mention a non-XT. So I think there's the possibility, depending on what the competition does, that a really strong performing, great 1080p, decent 1440p card at an even lower price could be launched fairly quickly if they wanted to. So yeah, I think once availability ramps, hoping availability ramps, there's going to be some really nice mainstream cards between all the latest RTX 30 series and these guys.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, I think Lisa Su went on record as saying, second half of this year, probably sometime maybe Q3, we'll see sort of an easing of the chip supply shortage, mainly speaking about her supply chain substrates and whatnot that were affecting GPU availability to meet demand. And so, but it's really hard for us in these market dynamics to pass judgment on a product fully when all you can do is, take that MSRP for granted and for face value and say, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be, but who knows what it's going to really be priced when it hits e-tail,
Yep.
And the scalpers out there creating mayhem. It's unfortunate. And I don't think anybody wants it. I honestly don't think AMD would want this, but hopefully their strategy works. Two-pronged strategy. Hopefully there's enough supply in with the OEM partners and at AMD.com that folks can get these things.
Yeah, I mean that's one other consideration too. The GPUs, the physical piece of silicon is obviously much smaller than the bigger GPUs. So theoretically, assuming similar yields, there should be more of these. In the mainstream cards typically sell in higher volume as well. So I'm sure AMD took that into their strategy before deciding when was the right time to launch. So I'm not optimistic they're going to stay in stock, but I do think some gamers are going to get their hands on them on the 18th.
Did they talk about die size?
I'm not on the video, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to recall if they had mentioned that, because I would like to know how much smaller this GPU is versus a 6800 class or 6900 class. Just in terms of square millimeters, because that does make a big difference in defect density per wafer and yield. So yeah, this could be one of those more available product that's out there. But then you think about what NVIDIA did to try and make 3060 available to gamers, and the lengths at which they have gone. Whether you agree with them breaking out a dedicated mining product or gimping the 3060 performance for mining, it's still like, manufacturers are trying to address this dynamic as best they can, and hopefully it'd be interesting to see what this GPU from a silicon square millimeter real estate perspective looks like versus for example a 3060.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a comment from Chris W in the chat saying he doesn't think it's another 5700 XT moment because doesn't see the value in the card. I don't know, right? So obviously things are nuts, right? Which stinks. But if it trades blows with the 3070, that's pricier because it's 3070's got a higher MSRP and partner boards are also commensurately pricier. If it trades blows with that and it's better than a 3060 Ti, where partner boards are about 450-ish. Well, should be about 450-ish. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not that sweet spot, sub $300 mark, but nice card nonetheless, assuming everything shakes out the way AMD presented it today.
Yeah. Yeah. And one that's geared for 1440p gaming. I mean, that's kind of the, the caveat that I'm holding on to as well here with this, in terms of where it's priced in the market and its expected performance levels. You're not talking about 1080p gaming, super mainstream gaming. You're talking about 1440p capable at max, quality settings. And then, at 1080p, you're talking, esport types of frame rates, hopefully. Chris, any thoughts here?
Just more generally on the GPU market, if anyone has assessed the impact of everyone, pretty much going online to buy their cards for the most part, especially right now with the pandemic conditions, versus when cards are distributed around retail stores across the country, across the world, that makes it, you have the physical block to people scripting their purchases. Yeah, you'll still have the people who can convince the store manager to hold on to some cards for them. But, that distribution, I wonder how much of that is affecting the shortages and squeezes we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. It's hard. It's really hard to judge. I mean, it's just a freaky market. And, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. It's like, hey, here's a new product. Here's what it does. Here's what the price is supposed to be. The rest is up to the wild, West right now. It's just crazy. It's absolutely nuts. I mean, it's on one hand, it's kind of, certainly the supply chain issue, whether it's substrates or whatever from COVID or, whatever negative market impacts caused us to have this shortage. But I also think the demand is also a positive thing, because people are getting more into computing. People are, these are sought after products, and the run on technology during COVID, because folks want a game. That's all goodness, And
I think it is more the demand than any particular shortage, because I think when we've talked with both AMD and NVIDIA, they've both indicated we're shipping more cards with these launches than we've shipped before.
Than we ever have, yeah.
So it's not really a shortage. It's a shortage relative to demand, yes, but demand is just that insane right now.
Yeah. And then the mining thing, it's like that. How do you control that dynamic? Bitcoin goes off the hook, Ethereum value off the hook. Yeah. Okay. Here we are again.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, but it is what it is. And, you just try and ride it out and hope it gets better soon.
That's it.
Anything else on this, Marco? I
know we're running out of time. We're late. I just want to address something that James just said in the chat. It says he remembers Evergreen launch and, the 5700 being under 170. Price points have moved a lot. They did. I think NVIDIA really threw a wrench in the works with the RTX 2000 series and, really pushed prices high. With this latest gen from both companies, they tried to adjust, but the other real positive is this generation is a huge leap in performance, versus what was out there, especially for AMD. Like the 5700 XT is just left in the dust versus, it's the 6800. And it's a monumental leap. So I think, with market conditions and with the newfound levels of performance and new features like ray tracing, yada, 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 pricing, it did shift upwards, but it'll all shake out. And the net effect is still some really nice cards for gamers, when they can get them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely good stuff. Interesting too, that the 3060 has 12 gigs of RAM to match this now, when the TI has 8, and it's like, it is great to have that competitive, the competitive positioning going on now. That makes better products. You are seeing, I think, Marco, I don't know if you would agree with this. You are seeing, I think, NVIDIA reacting to, AMD's larger frame buffer strategy, 16 gigs on the high end, 12 gigs on this card, What are your thoughts on that? And then we'll close it out.
I think at this point, had the market not been so insane, we would have already seen RTX series cards with more memory.
Yeah.
The rumors were out very shortly after the launch of the RTX 30 series that, 20 gig 3080s, basically double the memory on what's out there for that were coming, and they never materialized. Things are just so nuts that everyone's plans are in flux. But
yeah.
I'll say that.
And with that, we'll probably wrap it up here.
Yeah.
You can find us on the web at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, youtube.com/hothardware vids. Hit thumbs up and subscribe. Hot Hardware Twitch. That's where you can find us on Twitch. We're on Facebook, Hot Hardware. We're everywhere, man. And don't have a giveaway going on right now, but I'm sure we'll be lining one up very soon. We usually try to run a giveaway a month. Last month, or I should say, January rather. We're a little bit tardy this month, got busy. January, we gave away some fine stuff from Lenovo, including a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon laptop. That was pretty sweet. Anything else to add, Marco, before we sign off?
No, I think you summed it up fantastically.
And with that, it's beer 30 again and dinner time or something like that, right? Right, Chris?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And check us out at Hot Hardware Twitch as well, because there'll be some additional game streaming content with Val Rojas doing the game stream thing. But other than that, we'll thank you so much for stopping by.